Welcome to the Heritage Report. My name is Janice Hayes-Williams, and I'll be giving you 30 minutes of heritage in the 7 districts of Arundel County. Today, I have 2 wonderful young ladies with me with Connecting Dots. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They are...
Monica Lindsay.
Hi, Monica.
How are you?
Fine.
Thank you for having us.
And I'm Jennifer Haber, and I'm delighted to be here as well.
Thank you, Jennifer. These ladies are with Connecting the Dots. They're very soon to bring a memorial confronting lynching in Annapolis in Anne Arundel County. So I'm going to let them tell you why they are doing this, when the memorial is going to happen, and why this organization came to be.
Wonderful. Thank you again for having us and providing this opportunity to share what we hope to do for Anne Arundel County. We're going to be bringing the first of a 3-part series of a forum of reconciliation and remembrance to Anne Arundel County. And this first stage that we are embarking on is going to be a historical marker. That's going to be on September 7th, and we're hoping that your viewing audience will make sure to mark their calendars and be there, 7th of September at 10 o'clock in the morning. On Calvert Street, just across from the Arundel Center. And you'll see it because we're going to have the whole street blocked off.
Okay,
So just follow the crowd.
Very good.
But the goal is to set the tone for truth and reconciliation in Anne Arundel County. There's a call by the Equal Justice Initiative, which is based out of Montgomery, Alabama. Mm-hmm. They did years of research and documented the lynchings that occurred throughout the United States. And for each area that they found documented lynchings between a certain date criteria, they established a memorial monument. Right now, those monuments sit in a 6-acre plot of land in Montgomery, Alabama. Mm-hmm. Those monuments, though, are a record. They're a record of whether or not those particular areas have embarked on the journey of reconciling with the truth of the history and started on the path of reconciliation. So we have one for Anne Arundel County that sits down there. And the call was for individual areas to start with education, start with programs and discussions so that we could at some point claim our memorial marker. And that's the final piece of it. But along that, there's the historical marker, which is truth-telling.
And that's where we began September 7th.
Exactly.
Okay.
We start with the truth-telling.
Okay.
And the truth-telling is about the 5 lynchings that happened in Anne Arundel County. And Jen has worked with me and along with another great team of community folks. The ask was for it to come from the community. So we all came from the community. We came together, we joined hands and made this happen.
So that's probably a good segue to that. We are still mired living in a racist society, that there is systemic racism everywhere, and who all want to join together to really fight for equity and fight for racial justice. And so Connecting the Dots has done a variety of things already. We participated in a screening of 13th, which you moderated, followed by a panel at Maryland Hall with a terrific turnout. We've done another project with Maryland Hall where we did screenings of several documentaries about lynching. One was directed and created by Will Schwartz, who is the head of the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project, and that was followed up with a really significant conversation about how all of this impacts today as well. And so Monica attended last October, when she can certainly talk about that, but the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project's first annual Maryland conference, because over 40 people were lynched in Maryland. And so there are several counties that we're hoping will join us, and several who have already started the process. Although this will be the first marker to come to Maryland, there are other
The
groups.
entire state of Maryland
Yep.
is going to happen in the state capitol.
Yep, that's
Okay.
exactly right. That will
Very
be the
good.
first one. And so after attending the conference, Monica came to our monthly Connecting the Dots meeting and said, "This is what I did. What does everybody think?" And I'll let you take it from there.
And overwhelmingly, everyone in the room was like, we need to do this. This is something that we need to embark upon as concerned community members who are engaged and involved. So we embarked on the journey, which was partnering with the Equal Justice Initiative, partnering with the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project, who have been tremendous partners. And then, of course, coming along with that, the county of Anne Arundel, and then the city. So as we've moved through the process of, getting this marker established, I have learned a tremendous
Yes,
amount.
definitely, me too.
Especially who owns the sidewalk and who owns the
Yes,
park.
that is exactly right. Yep.
Definitely.
It's a part of the journey.
Yes, yes. It's my grandmother always said, I'm a lifelong learner. When I stop learning, I must not be alive anymore.
Right.
So I truly have, reckoned with that statement, because as a young person, you're like, oh, you're old. You don't learn anymore. But no matter what age you are, you can stand to learn some more. And that's what this process is about.
So
Right.
It
Yeah.
is. So I want to just mention to the audience, please tell the audience the significance of having the memorial on Calvert Street in the location where you're having it.
So Jen mentioned some of the projects that we'd worked on, and since we started this project in October, we realized that one of the victims' memorial, the anniversary of his death was coming up. His name was Henry Davis, and Henry Davis was actually one of the victims that was dragged out of what now stands as the Arundel Center, but was formerly the jail. So the marker being placed there was very important for us, because it was commemorating almost an exact location where Henry Davis started the journey that ended his life.
Yes.
And it was a traumatic event. It wasn't, it was very much meant to terrorize not only Henry Davis, but it was very much meant to terrorize the entire Black community, because what they did was they dragged him out of the jail and they intentionally dragged him through Black neighborhoods so that all the African Americans who lived in that path could see what they were doing to this man who just completely became a victim of mob anger. They took him, they lynched him, and as if lynching him wasn't enough, after dragging him through the streets and terrorizing all those people, he was shot 100 times. And then, as if that wasn't enough, they took pictures and they used the postcards as souvenirs. All of that to say that we have the control over you and there's nothing that you can do about it. And this is what you have to live with. So putting the marker there was really important, because even though we don't know exactly, because there's some contention exactly where his last moments were.
Yes.
But we do know where his last actual stay was before they ended his life.
What's so interesting also is for us in Annapolis who've heard this history, it was over and over and over again. I understand you may have some historic interpretation from a woman by the name of Georgia Boston, who lived on that street, and she was able to tell us in her own words, through her story, that it would happen over and over and over again. So appropriate to be in the community where it happened, because that's where the healing needs to begin. So where are we going from here?
And could I just note too,
Yes.
that all happened with hundreds of white people watching and cheering it on. And not only just white citizens, but it's significant to note that the government was really complicit in all of this. There were people working at the county jail. There were elected officials that knew these things were going on. These things happened either with the active permission of many of these people, or with a complete and total disregard for the life of the person being murdered and for terrorizing entire communities. And so it's so significant that it stands there as a recognition of something horrible that happened, and hopefully a peace for the communities that were terrorized, but also as a reminder and acknowledgement to the white people that this happened, and these people, hundreds of people, were complicit, and acknowledging that it happened, and not only recognizing that that happened, but also recognizing all of the ways in which, although those specific events may not happen in that way today, but in some form or another, it is still happening in so many ways. The brutality of the police, I'm thinking
Mass
of
incarceration.
the mass incarceration,
Yes.
I'm thinking of the guy in Florida, Hernandez, what's the concealed carry with the stand your ground.
Stand your ground.
Right, as an
Yes.
excuse to gun down Black people. And not only that, but just the, as I said, the systemic racism. And it all comes from a system that was designed by the government to oppress Black people, to treat them as less than, and to elevate a white supremacist idea that that is still such a part of our history today, and people recoil, but it's accurate. And if you do spend time, and we hope people will, and it's part of the reason that we're bringing this marker here, and that you do the history that you do,
Right.
that people will really look at the history, not brush it off, oh, that happened so long ago, but really understand what happened and what continues to happen, so that we can all come together and fight against it.
So that comes to my next question.
Yeah.
What does education look like?
Yeah.
You know, now we have the memorial. It's been installed. It's right here in front of the Arundel Center. It's front and center where it happened. What's next?
So we have the marker. Education looks like the piece that we are continuing to work on, because we don't want that light to go out. So we need to establish some type of center that's going to be a source of ongoing education. So our goal is for the second part of this exercise, the marker being the first part, the second part to establish an ongoing center of education that does not allow the light to fade on the truths of history. As a person that went through the school system, considering myself an educated person,
Right. And an educator.
and an
That's right.
educator
Yes.
as well,
Yep.
there is so much that I don't know, even still. And so much I wasn't exposed to in my educational path. And I went to good schools, but there was a lot of history that isn't part of the curriculum, that our students are not exposed to, that we need to share, because this is how the cycle of the continued oppression occurs, is through
Lack of understanding.
lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we need to establish a center of knowledge that's going to keep history alive. So that's the second piece that we need to work on. And then the third piece would bring that monument,
Okay.
showing that we've reconciled with these issues. We've journeyed down this path of truth and reconciliation. We're committed to ongoing education that's not going to be a flash in the pan, a moment of time, just in order to get these monuments and
yeah.
Per se,
markers.
yes.
But that this is a continuing journey that we're committed to going down, so that we can, essentially, we need to save the soul of this nation. As Coretta Scott King said, the soul of this nation is being challenged right now.
Yes. And I always say, I'm a teacher's daughter. You must teach the children. We have to find a way to put this in the curriculum.
Absolutely.
You know, I went to Annapolis High School, and the only reason I got African American history was because a young man started a riot and was expelled from school. I think you know who
I
he
know
was.
that young man.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
wound up going to, but because of him,
Yeah.
I'm a senior, and I'm getting African American history. Now we are doing more. The county has African American voices. This is yet another voice, and in some way you have to teach the children. Now, I
That's
do
right.
remember that, isn't there an essay contest in there somewhere?
Yes.
Yes, there was.
So that's another wonderful thing that the Equal Justice Initiative does is if you are the coalition that is chosen to bring the historical marker to your area, you also have the great opportunity to, actually it's obligatory, but it's an opportunity for sure, to do an essay contest for your public school students that are 9th through 12th grade. And they have a few different prompts that basically talk about how is history, let's talk about history, but let's talk about how it's impacting today. And so they have to do an essay and then they submit it and they get awarded scholarships. So we had 10 people that submitted their essays, and we will find out on September 7th at the unveiling ceremony who the 5 finalists are, and then there will also be honorable mentions, and we'll find out ranked in order, I guess, who the winners are and how much money they got.
This is very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it will be a celebration as well as a remembrance and commemoration. So it's definitely going to be a very intense day.
Okay.
We've been planning feverishly for the last several months now, and we're going to have the unveiling and the awards ceremony, and along with that, we're going to have an opportunity for the public to have discourse. We will move from the location of the unveiling ceremony and the awards ceremony to Asbury United Methodist Church on West Street.
Okay.
And there the public is welcome to attend, and we will be having these facilitated discussions in small groups on the topic of who are we and where are we going as a nation. And it will be an opportunity for people to sit face to face with their neighbors, their friends, whomever, and really talk about and dig into, who are we as a people and what do we really want to see our country, what direction do we want to see it moving in, especially in connection with all these things that we realize are part of the history, and what's the path that we're looking to moving forward.
And I would also just note that every time that we host an event, we do a program, and this time will be no different. And in that program, we provide resources. This is what you could be reading. Here's books, here's online materials, websites, and these are different local groups that are fighting for racial justice. And really the idea is you've come, you've heard, and now join us. Because we really want everybody to feel a sense of responsibility to be part of the solution. And while it's wonderful to come and be supportive, and we really hope that we're going to have a great turnout for people on the 7th, We want them to continue to turn out, and we want them to roll up their sleeves and be part of this. We need everybody in this fight because it is I'm sure I don't need to tell you,
Yeah.
it is a long battle, and we're getting more and more people are getting it and understanding and embracing it and being part of the solution. And actually, we came up with the idea that for the actual unveiling, we're going to ask everybody that's within reach to put their hand up and everybody to pull the cloth off together as a sign of a commitment and a need for all of us to come together and keep fighting this fight until the fight isn't necessary anymore.
So I have one last question. There is a statewide commission, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit more about, I heard a little bit more, I got a call about it. And I know that we're picking people from around the state of Maryland, but just
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more.
Sure. Do you
So-
want to go ahead?
So the Maryland Truth and Reconciliation Commission they'll be having their public launch the same week. They'll be having their public launch at University of Baltimore
Yes.
campus on September 12th. And at this time, the commission is looking for people to serve as commission representatives from the public at large. I believe they have 4 slots
Yes.
available. And they're going to be basically following the path of doing, research, making recommendations, ensuring that this journey coming from a lens of we really need to take this seriously as a political, I don't want to say maybe political is not the right term, but as from the government organization and rectify and deal with this history.
Complete community.
That's
Yes.
right.
The people, the government, and the educators.
That's right.
That includes the school system as well.
That's right.
I'm
And
sure
delegate.
you all are engaging them
Yes.
at this point.
It's critical, just like you said. I mean, it really is. I'm hard pressed to find people who didn't learn in school, slavery is bad, it ended, and then we move on, except for it's just simply not true. But that's really the extent to which people learned it. But there's so much more, and I'm sure you've heard of the New York Times, the 1619 Project, but that is precisely what they're looking into, and we're certainly going to be talking about that and looking into it for the Education Center and really talking to the schools about let's really teach history, American history.
Let's tell the truth.
Yes,
Yes.
let's tell the truth, exactly, the whole truth. So the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it is worth noting, Delegate Pena-Melnick introduced the bill, and Maryland
Yes.
is the only state to have passed such a law and to establish such a commission. So that's all hopeful and steps in the right direction. Hopefully others will follow suit.
And your listening audience may be also interested to know that the next conference for the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project
Yes.
will be in November at Morgan State University. I believe the date is November 16th.
Okay. Do you have a website where they can stay posted?
That's great.
We don't have a website,
Okay.
but we do have a public Facebook page.
Okay.
And we are currently working on our portal for Anne Arundel County Connecting the Dots through the Maryland Lynching Memorial Project's website. So we will have a web page soon, but it's not quite ready yet for public consumption.
So, ladies, I just want to say thank you so much. This has been so informative. All of Anne Arundel County needs this history. Again, thank you for joining me. Today we have Monica Lindsay and Jennifer Haber
Yeah.
from Connecting Dots, getting ready for the Lynching Memorial unveiling Saturday, September 7th, 10 a.m., Calvert Street. Please be there. This is very important that the truth be told about our history. Thank you so much and good night.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank
Janet.